doing this myself, so give me just a second to get this started here. There we go. Double checking this. Okay. We are working on a different style bag, one that I don't normally do very often. It's a slouchy bag. Often called a bucket bag. It's a soft-sided bag. For one of my longtime followers, requested Pegasus. Specifically ones that look sort of like the ones on Fantasia. So there's 4 panels that go on this bag. And we're going to be cutting out parts to go on all of them. This is the Bonnie bucket bag. The pattern is by Swoon. It's a nice, good sized bag. But we're going to only start with 1 panel at a time. This is going to be one large detailed Pegasus on this side. So we're going to have them kind of flying around the bag. As you can see, we got a nice sky blue going on here. I'm going to start with changing our blade, just so we get some nice, good, clean cuts. There's no sense in starting with a dull blade. The base I'm working with again is marine vinyl. That's what this is. It's nice, pretty sky blue. If y'all ever want to know where I've gotten any of this stuff, I'm happy to say where I source my stuff from. It's not a big dark secret. It's been a heck of a day here, so I'm looking forward to kind of relaxing and getting this done. You'll notice a lot of times I use my pliers to put the blade on just for safety's sake, because it's not fun to get cut up by that. Okay, I'm missing a piece here for cutting out things. I always try to keep everything in a pile here so that I have everything together. This is going to be the liner fabric. Isn't that pretty? I really like it. It's very fantastical. I have to find... So I don't want to make the main Pegasus black. I think I'm going to make the main Pegasus a white so it stands out just a touch more. I'm looking for my little bit of white that I got over here. There it is. It was buried under my strap material. So I've got a little bit of this left. We're going to go ahead and cut out the main body outline, and then the wings will be a separate piece. So it's going to look a little strange when we first start doing this. These are basically just clip art forms that I use for my templates here. It's weird that after a really stressful day that this is what I find to be relaxing. But it is, so. Alright. So again, for like the more detailed parts of this, I'm going to be cutting this in kind of a layered effect, so there'll be multiple pieces that go with the big one. I think we're going to make the hoofs silver. That'll be pretty. So I'll cut out like a little bit of a detailed piece here to make the hoof details stand out a little bit more when I'm done here. And again, I tape as I go just so that nothing gets too far up that I can't keep it flat and even. That is important if you're hand cutting things, just to make sure that all of your material stays flat. Otherwise, you end up with gaps and things like that, or uneven lines because you've tried to move it around a whole lot. That's just one of the things that I've learned by doing this so often. Sometimes I'm not so sure about the line work. Like, as you can see on this part here, the legs don't look quite right, so we're just gonna kind of change that a hair. Get a nice flowing long tail on our Pegasus here. Sometimes when I'm describing these things, I think of Bob Ross. It's a happy little Pegasus. Happy little Pegasus in the sky. No mistakes, just happy accidents. For the curious, I absolutely go through tons of tape. Tape, tape, tape. All kinds of tape. Packing tape, and masking tape, and double-sided tape, and tape. Most of my life revolves around adhesives, it seems like sometimes. So I'm going to come through this end right here. Sometimes these little teeny bits can be a little bit tricky, but if you ever feel like that you haven't put enough detail into a piece, you can always add it in the stitching. Like my last bag that I just finished had a lace detail, and I didn't feel like it had enough kind of oomph just by doing like the regular circular cutouts that I normally do. That's the Gothic Library bag if you wanted to watch those videos. So I sewed down a bunch of detail in the stitching, and it turned out really nice. So like a lot of the lines that you're gonna see on like the legs here, or like up here with like the mane separation and all that, that can be fixed with line work. You don't necessarily have to cut out every single little detailed piece in that. So I'm going to be kind of extra careful around the face, because this is just a really small bit, but it's kind of one of the major definition points of the piece, because, well, people might not recognize exactly everything that goes on with horse anatomy. The face is definitely one of those noticeable things that if you muck it up, everyone notices. Again, that's sometimes why I like doing more abstract botanicals. It's a little bit more forgiving, and I don't stress as much about some of the details. Gotten a little quiet here because I'm trying to get these ears right without cutting off parts. Sometimes when you use stencil work, it's easy to cut off wrong parts of the line work. We can go a little bit more freehand with the mane. Some of the squareness there I don't dig, so we'll just kind of take care of that by hand on this part. So I already know that I don't have to fix that with stitch work. I can cut these a little bit differently. Give it a little bit more flowing lines. Hi Jedi, thanks for joining me. Just watch where your line work is going if you're kind of improvising, because otherwise it might get into some of the other line work. So I'm gonna take a little bit of a little bit of free rein here with some of this mane. Okay, so here's the part where I'm gonna have to get another piece going. I'm just going to kind of cut a straight line on the back and then cut out the wings separately. Just because. Yeah, thanks for asking, Jedi. She's fine. The littlest had to get her head stapled today. She's my niece, but she might as well be my third kid because I've taken care of her since she was 3 months old. But she's okay now. It was just a very, very trying morning. I've had better days. But we're all okay now. I finally got my cup of coffee at like 7 o'clock at night. Not how I prefer to have my coffee, but that's alright. My brother was nice enough to make me some coffee. I have been running around all day. So we're just gonna take this out of the vinyl. Sometimes it takes a little bit to kind of do this work. I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this generically over here, and I will cut out the detail of the face here in just a minute. See, getting there. Sorry, sometimes I have to go quiet when I'm concentrating. It's like my brain can't do 3 things at once. Breathing, cutting, talking. I have to pick 2. There we go. One thing I did forget was his eyeball. That's not cool. So, if you find that you've done that while you're cutting out things, it's okay to just take this piece, because this is the only part I need, right? So I'm going to go ahead and clean up the work that I've already cut out. So that it matches up to this. There we go. Like on these, I know you've seen in some of the other videos where I have pulled just to get things out of my way. When you have little tiny pieces like this, it's not a good idea. Because sometimes you can just take the piece right off and then you have to do it again. So knowing when you can just kind of rip off the excess vinyl and when you should be a little more delicate is part of the process. So we've got a horse with 2 ears and a mouth, but no eyeballs. So we should probably fix that. So what I'm doing to kind of correct what I had is I'm lining them up. So if you go to pull your piece and you've noticed that you've forgotten something, just you can pull off the part where you've noticed that you forgot something after you've cleaned it up. As you can see, my mouth is all lined up here and the mane is lined up because I haven't completely cleaned that up. And then there's this little bump here above the eyeball, so where it's showing the facial bones of the horse. So what I'm doing is fixing that by cutting this now out of the torn off piece where I know that I forgot something, and now I'm just going to treat it like the rest of it. And it works just fine. All you have to do is make sure that you're lining it up really well, and sometimes you have to tape it extra because you're working with a smaller piece. But once I get his little eyeball hole here, we'll make that a pretty color. There we go. Now he has an eye. It's not a hard fix. You don't have to start the piece all over again if you forgot something at some point, because I've done that plenty of times. There we go. So as you can see, I made the mane a little bit different on this piece than I have on other ones. Or, well, that I have on the original. I made the mane a little bit longer, a little more flowy. I think it's a little more elegant. Sometimes some of the cuts that they give the horses and stuff on clip art is a little too square for me. So that's something that you can definitely use your artistic vision and change on your own. I don't know why this one back hoof looks so much bigger than the other one. I think I'm gonna have to fix that. It's probably because I used a different line to cut it with. Yeah, that hoof is much larger. So what we're gonna do, because I'm pretty sure this is where I mucked it up here, just gonna do a little bit of trimming. You can always take stuff off. Much harder to put anything back on once you've decided to do some massive editing. Yeah, that works. Alright, so what we're gonna do here is just keep trimming this just a little bit more. So his little hooves are slightly, I mean, perspective wise you want one to be a little bit larger, but not that much larger. It just makes him look a hair more normal. Not quite so clumsy. Yeah. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I'm gonna push that to the side for a second so I can wipe off my little bits here. And yes, those bits get everywhere. My husband calls it my confetti. And it is. It's my sewing confetti. So there we go. We have a nice, elegant looking Pegasus here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the wings now. Doing these in stages too can help conserve some of the vinyl, so that you can just work a little bit more at, get a little bit more out of each piece of vinyl. So going to tape this up here. Yeah, that works. Hi, Mommy. Hi, honey. I love you. Okay, well, you can't sleep up here, though, because I'm streaming right now.
I'm asleep on stream.
No.
Just face the plants.
I always liked Pegasus and stuff when I was a kid. These are loosely, the bag is loosely based off of Fantasia, with the really sweet little baby Pegasus and the very elegant adult Pegasus. They're so pretty. Such iconic cartoons. I always liked Fantasia a lot. Okay, so we got this taped. We'll get our, hang on, I gotta burn this off before I forget. Gotta get his mouth. Fire. There we go. Sometimes I forget to do some of this stuff unless I'm thinking about it right at that moment, so yeah. Forget which scissors I'm using sometimes. It's been a long day, so I'm a little bit harried today, so I seem a bit weirder, because I'm always a little bit weird. That's why. I would prefer not to have another day like today. I would like something to be incredibly boring. Just very dull. I'd also like it if the weather would start to cooperate and be spring. Because I would very much like to get into my garden. Seems like it should be gardening weather by now. But I say that every February. Okay, let's see about this. So sometimes when you pick a line, you kind of have to just go with it. So we're gonna go with this. Some of these, like these big, large feathers. There's a name for them, I know, but I can't think of what it is. Are really have to be taped down when you go to sew them. Because they look really beautiful and elegant when you're doing the cutting. But while you're sewing, they tend to move around. And improperly bent feathers are incredibly noticeable. Done a lot of rubber bags with birds on them. And that's usually one of the major complaints that I have with feathers, is that they like to move around when you go to sew them. Okay, so that is that. I will go ahead and do part of the second wing, just because we want to, so to make this a more elegant attachment line, because in the drawing, it's just kind of sitting there. So we're just going to do the bottom like that. I'm going to take this out and then we'll do the secondary wing. All you really see on the secondary wing is some of the big long feathers. So I'm probably not going to cut out a whole wing. Just because when you go to layer it on, it should hide it. That's one of those sneaky tricks to save yourself some labor. If nobody's going to see it, then it's okay to not make it perfect on the parts that nobody's going to see. I won't waste the time sewing down feathers that no one's going to look at. And in fact, will be covered up by this. So there's that. And I will stitch on the second row of feathers. I think we'll change up this just a little bit. Just gonna make it slightly more curved there. Now we can really say you have an accurate Pegasus wings, because hey, Pegasus don't exist, so. Very pretty though. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Let's get this secondary batch of feathers so that we can give the illusion at least of a second wing. I have some scraps of this white material that I'm going to dig up because I am starting to run out of it, and customer requested black and white Pegasus flying around the bag. Like I said, very much in tribute to the Fantasia Pegasus. But not under copyright because I'm not making the exact same thing. So. Those Pegasus are very, very Art Deco. They have a lot of very straight, severe lines. Except for the babies. They were very cute and round. So because I'm working in a smaller area that's already been cut, I'm definitely taping this down very securely. Just because I don't want it to move any more than it has to. So how we're going to do this is by using the guide for the wing that we've already cut out. I'm going to make the rest of these little feathers here I find that noise incredibly satisfying. That little blink. When I cut it, when I pull the scalpel out of the material, it's really nice. So, sometimes, like I said, some of these are based off stenciling, and so you have to be really careful with what you're showing and what you're cutting, because otherwise, like, these thick black lines would deceive me into thinking that I needed to cut less than I would, and when I go to put it on the piece, I would have either blank spots or things not showing when they should be, or things showing when they should not be. So when I go to layer this down, this will actually be the first wing that I sew down. This little pseudo wing that we're going to put underneath the other one. I really love this color that the customer chose for bag. I don't get to use a lot of light blues. Usually everyone wants darker colors. By far and away, the color I use the most is black. I probably use 50 yards of that a year, at least. Brown is the least popular. If anyone wonders. I do a lot of teal bags. That one's been popular recently too. Okay, so how this is going to lay together. So we have this sweet little wing here that we're going to position like this. And then going to have this paired here, so it kind of looks like there's two wings. Or you can decide that it's just one really full wing with lots of layers. Either way, works for me. It's really pretty. And I really like this. I really like this design. Okay, next. So, pulled out this panel before. This is one panel. So the way these go together, these are both this side. Okay. And then there's this panel. They kind of sit and face each other like this. If you'll notice, there's like a small angle here that goes up. So these will get sewn together. And as you notice, this is not going to be really close to the edges because we have 1/2 inch seam allowance around the whole thing. So to lay these out, we'll have this like this, which is really pretty. And then once I sew it on there, you'll have more wing details. But what I'm gonna do here is, let's see, another, I think, we'll have, I might need one in a slightly different pose, so we'll see. Good over here. So we're going to push this over here. I'm gonna make this one a black Pegasus over here. Kind of flying up a little bit more. So it kind of looks like they're off in the distance. Then I might have to see about getting a different pose for the backside, because I don't know. We'll see. We will see. Now, I might have to talk to the client about clouds. I think clouds would look really cute on this, but we'll see. Might not be what they like. Don't know. Okay, so this one's going to be a bunch easier because these will not be detailed Pegasus. These will be outlines like silhouettes. So, still going to be around here. It's going to be a little bit tricky around the face still because the smaller you go, the trickier it gets. That's why I only try to work with certain types of bags. Just because, for detailed work anyways, not everybody wants something super amazing or special. You know, for just regular bags, I need to have enough space to work. So... I asked, the client wanted black and white because that's what they wanted. So, like, I don't think they wanted the whole rainbow of all the colors that the Pegasus came in. I think the black and white ones were the only ones that they wanted. So, going to brief. We got that. Alright, let's get these wings done. So... Alright, awesome. Got it. Alright, so when we're doing outlines, it's really important to do crisp and clear. Everyone's having discussions downstairs about the groceries, in case you're wondering what's going on there. Apparently we're getting Chef Boyardee. Okay, I almost just cut myself there. So let's pay a little bit more attention, Alicia. It's not... That would probably be the perfect end of my day, is ending up in the ER myself, so... No, not here. Granny would buy that shit. I would put it the fuck away. Sometimes just cold out of the can. My kids never had it. So I might have to say something to everyone having their conversations downstairs. Alright, getting closer here. This is a problem about not having my own room to do this in. I'm kind of at the whim of the household. Alas. Getting there. Alright. have to play around a little bit here on the back panels and see if I can figure out, maybe if I do one of these in just like smaller sizes. I think they're too uniform. That might be what's bothering me. So if I do a bunch of these little guys flying around here, and they're all the same size, it's not gonna look right. So, no, I definitely don't have that hoof. All right, get over here and get this done. So you'll notice I was turning the piece around so that I can see what I've already done. Just so that I remember where things are at and how I was supposed to get them on there. Okay, that's it for that. Silhouettes are one of the easier ways to do applique, or reverse applique in this case. Silhouettes are fun. A lot of times they can make a nice classy bag, kind of refined looking. And it can be easier on the sewist too, sometimes. Alright, let's get this out, and then I will put the black under here and you can take a look at it. Okay. We got a little bit of a woog here, that's alright. When you do work like this, you can also save these bits that you cut out and use them on other pieces. So like if I wanted this one in, say, a cameo, I could keep this little Pegasus that I'm about to cut out of here and I can put it into another bit, which would be really pretty actually, on a white background with like a framework around it. It'll be really pretty. But those are the kinds of things that you can save scraps and make two bags out of one design.
Pog champ, bag advice, pog champ.
My children are very strange people.
Ass.
I hope everyone watching had a better day than I did. We had an interesting day at my house. It started with a 6-year-old cosplaying as Carrie White on prom night. And ended up in the ER for said 6-year-old, which was not how I wanted to start my morning. Uncaffeinated, without breakfast and medicine and anything else that resembled normal humanity for me. She's fine though. Pretty unaware. Head wounds bleed a lot. It's really quite something to look at. Like, not a good something, but it's something. It's very disturbing. Okay. Trying to pay attention to these little wing bits just so that people can still see the wings and can also be thick enough that I can still sew into them. Some of these will get trimmed a little bit because they can't be too thin. Well, I'm glad, Jedi, that you had a slow day at work that did not involve faces full of blood and stitches. Or staples. These were staples, which I hope no one has to explain skin staples to a 6-year-old. It's not great. However, everything worked out okay, so it was just a very stressful start to the day. Alright. Oh heck. Sometimes when you use backing with a woven, well, material with a woven backing, sorry, it can have like one string that wants to snag. It's very annoying. So, the important part when you're doing reverse applique work that's a little more complicated is to cut very, very carefully. Because if you cut off the wrong bits, the silhouette gets ruined. Or at least distorted. Now, you can cut off the wrong pieces of the interior bit here, if you don't plan on reusing it. But usually it's best to just be super cautious. So it takes a while to get the smaller bits out. Okay, now we just have a little mouth area here. So, even though it's a smaller horse and we're going in silhouette, I'd like to keep, you know, the horse face recognizable. And it's really pretty when he has a little mouth open. So, there we go. Okay, so we have our little horse, and we can use that again in something else. And then this will be the outline of the black Pegasus, which is very cool. I really like that. I have this here. I'm going to cut this part here so we have just a little more definition. It makes it look a little more like 2 hooves instead of just one. But yeah, that's how that'll look in the silhouette. Pretty. Alright, let me see if I can make these other ones work on the back. So those are the 2 front panels. And I think I'm going to have to figure out something else. Yep. We get these. Oh no. Because then they're all facing each other. This is just my process here, so you'll get to watch this. Don't know about this. If I reverse those, I think I need different silhouettes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I really don't think that's gonna work. These, okay with. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to figure out a different path for these. It's just too uniform, and if they're flying through the sky, then it's not gonna work. Maybe I'll leave one there. And like maybe one here if I reverse it. But I need something else. Why does that look like a different color? That's weird. Okay, well, we've got 2 pieces cut out right now, and I think that's gonna have to be it for right now because I have to go figure out the rest of this, which I thought I had figured out, but I do not. So let's take a break, and once I figure all this out, we will come back and do this again next time. Thanks for joining me, y'all.